at that emotion.
Around the outside. It's time to bring the action.
Yeah, welcome to another episode of SMX Insider. We are the Jasons, Weigandt and Thomas here to break down surprisingly good racing Spring Creek at Millville. I think going into this one, JT, it was just foregone conclusion. Jett Lawrence had been dominating. He had barely been challenged at all. But I think things have changed a little bit. He still went 1-1, but there's signs of hope now for Chase Sexton.
Well, and that's the unanswerable question so far is we've seen Chase close the gap. There's no question about that. He made up time, really, especially in the first moto, but it looked like he was on his way to challenging again in the second moto. But I'm still wondering where Jett's ceiling is. Like, it's one thing to catch Jett, but it's another thing to pass him and then beat him, and that simply hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, you made the point several times. As impressive as Sexton's charge was, and it was definitely closer than the previous rounds, you've seen this from Jett before in the 250 class, and he still wins.
Yeah, he just has this innate ability to figure out a rider's pace, absorb that, and then figure out a way to take it and go faster. And that's not exactly what happened at Spring Creek, but the end result was the same, right? Chase Sexton was able to close the gap and get to a certain level, and then Jett either figured things out or Chase ran out of steam. And I kind of think he ran out of steam. He had used so much energy to pick his motorcycle up, close that gap down, that when he got there, I just think he didn't have any more juice left to go chase further with. But it still leaves doubt in my mind about whether you can go past Jett and then he's not going to have anything to answer with. I truly believe he has something to answer with when that question is finally asked.
Yeah, and that's what our colleague Ricky Carmichael has been saying. Jett's ability to adapt, learn, and improve quickly is just something you very, very rarely see. So we got to keep that in mind. But Washougal upcoming, really one of Sexton's best tracks and really one of Jett's worst. So that's what we've got on the horizon this weekend. But the 250 class looks a lot different than it did going into Spring Creek, also because we had all this hope, all this talk. Hunter Lawrence had lost the points lead, and not just Hayden Deegan taking the points lead from him, but several other riders thinking, now I've got a shot at this. It wasn't a perfect day for Hunter in Minnesota, but for what he needed to accomplish, it kind of was. I feel like he shut down a lot of the momentum the other riders thought they had.
Yeah, and I spoke to a few people before the race today, and they mentioned that he was on a mission to send a message this weekend, right? It had gotten away from him a little bit, not necessarily through things that he could control, but he had allowed these other riders to gain confidence, and they felt like they were back into this championship. And coming in, he was healthier than he had been, and he wanted to set the record straight that he was still the best guy. And I really felt like that started with time qualifying in the morning. We have not seen that level of Hunter Lawrence in the qualifying sessions the way he was. And I think it was an all-day thing. Yes, the crash at the end of the second moto dampened that a little bit and maybe re-aggravated some of that injury. But I think everybody not named Hunter Lawrence had to leave there a little bit down from where they came in. Like, they probably just got some of the things that had happened earlier in their series reinforced that maybe Hunter is the best guy in this series.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting going forward to Washougal, especially with those ribs. He's been dealing with it all year, but that might be the only opportunity or window anyone can sneak in to challenge him, because he's pretty much been the best guy when he hasn't had the bad luck. So overall, a dynamic weekend at Millville, but we can't really talk Spring Creek without bringing the Martin family in. The two brothers, Alex and Jeremy, the family. We haven't talked to J-Mart since he went down with a huge injury at round 2 of the series at Hangtown. So here's our big interview with Alex, who retired last year, and Jeremy is hoping to make a comeback. Okay, big interview time, and we are at Spring Creek, so why not bring the brothers in here with Jeremy and Alex Martin. Okay, Alex, you're kind of in charge in a way. I'll get to you that in a second, but you're a long lost, Jeremy. We have not seen you since the first turn of the moto at Hangtown. Broken arm, we could see that clearly on TV. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Okay.
I'm excited to be here, socialize with everybody, see some familiar faces, and watch some good racing.
Dude, this is 2 years in a row that I've been hanging out with you in a TV booth at Millville. Okay, you're feeling better now, but it had to be devastating when this first went down.
Yeah, absolutely. When I tipped over, I was like, oh, not again. Here we go. And I ran over to the medic unit, and I was just like, all right, let's do it. Let's just get the situation under control. And yeah, here I am on the mend.
On the mend. Okay, so as for you, Alex, we thought when you said this will be my last Millville last year, like, you'll be back. He's going to race it in 2023. You were actually tempted? This might have happened?
It was close.
Yeah.
My wife and my dad were ultimately like, "You're crazy."
Okay.
I got a bike, a 350 from a local buddy. Gas. I've been riding a little bit, but like once a month. I've spent a lot more time on a weed whacker and a bulldozer lately. But when I do ride, I still feel good. So it was a little tempting, but to be at this level and to actually do 35 minutes, and you put yourself in predicaments like Jeremy crashed 2 corners into the Hangtown Sakamoto. So I ultimately had to take a step back. I have a son now, 3-month-old, Everett Martin, and
congrats. Yeah.
And so it was just like there's other priorities in life right now. And I had my day in the sun for 15 years. So.
But for you, do you have an idea, prognosis, future? What comes next for you with this injury?
I think for right now, I haven't even asked the doctor, hey, what's the length of the recovery time or anything. I know I've been last 2 years I've had some pretty big injuries, and at this point, with it being year 3, I was just like, hey, I'm ready when I'm ready. Okay. And I'll go through physical therapy when the time comes and see how it feels, hop on the bike and go from there.
Okay, but the good news is, everybody goes through that dark phase at the beginning where they're like, I don't even want to deal with these things. There will be more motorcycle racing in your future. You're at least confident of that?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, I love it. I love the grind. I love twisting the grip, trying to beat the boys, and it's in the blood for sure.
Now, we've turned out to have a pretty wild 250 championship chase. Have you been able to watch enough at home? Because some racers hate doing that, but it's been pretty nutty, that class you're supposed to be in.
Yeah, definitely. I've watched every race. Like, I was in the hospital in Denver, and I put it up on my phone and watched, and I was like, wow, that track looks pretty gnarly. I don't know if I want to be out there right now, but the 250 class has just been wild. Like you said, we got Deegan. He's out there really giving a run for all the veterans right now, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. And Jett, can anyone beat him right now?
So far it hasn't happened. I mean, we thought it was crazy when you two were battling for moto wins in the 250s. We had Lawrence's on top in both classes in the same day. So you're evolving yourself, even from what you learn as racing. Now that you're doing the troll training thing, you're continuing to learn.
Well, I think the biggest thing is like taking your knowledge and translating that to the general public, right?
Yeah.
Like you can have all this knowledge, but if you can't relay it, it doesn't really matter. So for me, I've kind of gotten to a point where it's like boom, boom, boom. You hit your key topic points and then you kind of move on, type of thing. But yeah, that's definitely made me, as a dirt bike racer, I feel like I've been saying this a lot lately. Mm-hmm. Dirt bike racing's easy.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Sure.
What comes next in the real world, in real life, it's a whole other ballgame.
That's good. It might keep him on the track a couple more years. Take that advice.
Honestly, I've been watching Alex's first year of retirement, and I'm like, okay. And he's told me earlier this week, he goes, Jerma, racing dirt bikes was a lot easier.
Okay. All right.
It was a lot easier.
The to-do list gets longer and longer.
We might have got a couple more years out of him just for that. So more good advice with troll training. Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. 30-second board time. Hot topics in the sport. We are halfway through the first pro motocross season ever to have the metal grates behind the start. And the riders have opinions on it. So halfway through, we decided to ask a few what they think of that change.
The start gates, I actually like them. They're, last week I pulled my first hole shot of the year and was nice. Especially at South Lake, I haven't had the best starts there as far as history goes. So it was nice to get a hole shot there, and I feel like it's just very similar to Supercross.
I don't like them. That's just me. I didn't like them in Supercross either. That's personal opinion. That's just me being me.
I definitely love them. I like them a lot more than dirt, especially for me. This is the first time I've ever had good starts, so it's nice to be able to practice great starts all year long from Supercross to outdoors, so I definitely like them.
My starts have been terrible, so I'm going to say that they're no-go as of now, but if we get a couple hole shots this weekend, that'll change my mind.
Yeah, definitely. The metal grates is, I enjoy it. I mean, you can, it evens it out a little more. It evens the start out a little more, especially if you get pushed out wide on the gate. The grates help you a lot.
Grates are kind of dumbed down for us, and I think it doesn't give us a whole lot of wiggle room. So we all kind of go into the first corners a lot closer than what we should be. I would like to go back to the OG dirt starts.
Okay, there you go, JT. I feel like the overwhelming majority of the riders and teams, the teams ask for this, and the riders seem to like it because they always want consistency. I always say any athlete, better is always better. Personally, I'm not sure if better is better. Sometimes having variance is better. What they have done is less track maintenance now in front of the gates, try to make the ruts gnarlier to lead to some separation and maybe reduce the chance of crashes. You did both. You've done metal and dirt in your career. What do you think of this change so far?
I do think the adjustment that they made a couple weeks ago of not maintaining the ruts outside has helped. That's given some separation, and that's really all that the riders are looking for. And if you I've talked to people like Nick Way and others that are concerned about everybody arriving at the first turn together because the starts are so consistent. So that rut does matter. It is causing people issues when they leave the gate, which is what we're looking for. The best riders are going to qualify fastest, get the best gate picks. That's how this all works. So I don't necessarily have a strong opinion of whether the grates are better or worse. I do think it does help those that are more have more technology because they can really pinpoint what RPM you want to be at and how you want to disengage the clutch and all those things. But I do think this was a nice change, and we have already seen, I think, the fruits of that come out. Just less first turn crashes.
Yeah, definitely compared to the first 2 rounds for sure. When they started doing that, I think at High Point, not maintaining in front of those metal grates to kind of get the old feel back and away. 250 class shuffle. Yeah, it's been wild in this division. As I said at the top of the show, Hayden Deegan as the points leader wasn't the only story. It was also that Hampshire, Shimoda, and Justin Cooper got back in it. But this was a tough one on Hayden. And I honestly feel like it's going to be unfair criticism. I think people are going to say he choked or the weight of the points lead weighed him down. I feel like, hey, he's a rookie. We just can't expect him to be on the podium in every single moto all year. That's my thought on it.
Yeah, all of this was unexpected. For him to be the points leader, for him to be this consistent, where he was just on the podium week in and week out without really us thinking too hard about it, that's asking a lot to maintain that. And we also have to realize the grind that a rider is going through for the first time. And you just hear about this week after week and moto after moto, and his body's never been put through a test like this. So they're figuring things out as we go. He's trying to learn new racetracks and also be at the very best form of anybody that shows up on a 250 that weekend. So it's a big ask. I think he's been phenomenal all season long, regardless of where we go from here. He should be very proud of the effort he's put in.
Yeah, and as for the other 3, look, Shimoda, Hampshire, and Justin Cooper, all those guys, they were in front of Hunter in the first moto when he got them. RJ told you on the podium that crushed him. I talked to Cooper after the race. He said he was still a little flat physically after Southwick because he put out a big effort there. They've got to hit the reset button yet again going into Washougal because that class has changed back to the good for Hunter. On the comeback, this is really good stuff to always get these guys back into racing. Austin Forkner back after a devastating injury off the start in Anaheim 1, and Pierce Brown back from a broken hand, and they were hovering around top 10. To me, especially with how serious Forkner's injury was, I think this is a win.
Yeah, I love to get these guys back, right? And for Forkner, what a long road to get back. I mean, we saw him race, 6 minutes in January, and then he was gone until now. So we'll see what that progress timetable looks like from him, but it seemed like he was happy with his day. He was hovering around the top 10, and I think this gives him a launch pad to jump off of. And you're really just trying to build momentum and see incremental improvements. So getting any of these guys back is going to add to the series.
Yeah, and it's going to help. We'll see. It's going to take a rally for Forkner to get even in the top 30 and even have a shot at the LCQ for the SMX playoffs. But if he does get in and he's healthy, that's a real wild card there. Hunter Lawrence did win the 250 class. He didn't go 1-1 because he had a late crash. And this is just, to me, the way it always goes for Hunter. Everything rolls so easy for Jett Lawrence. Hunter, even when he's at his peak, something always seems to happen, and it did happen there late in the race.
Yeah, I always had this theory, and I don't know where I developed this, but if things are going too easy and everything seems to be going your way, you should probably be very wary of things tipping the other way, because it's just how life goes, right? The pendulum swings one way, and then at some point you're going to run into some sort of adversity. And I think we've seen that for Hunter over the last 3 rounds, even with the crash with a couple laps to go. But to Hunter's credit, he's fought through that. He's fought through mechanical issues. He's fought through nagging injuries. And yet here he is still holding the red plate. And deep down, I believe that everybody would be looking at each other going, yeah, he's the best guy. Doesn't mean he's going to win the championship, because that's why they dropped the gate. But he's been the best guy through 7 rounds.
We're going to look at the updated 250 SMX standings here. I mentioned Forkner. I think our statistician Clinton says he's going to need 6th place finishes on average to even get in. That's going to be tough. For a lot of the other riders, though, the situation is a little bit different. We mentioned Seth Hamaker. He had a bad race at Millville, but he's making the most of his return. And as far as these points are concerned, here's the thing to know. Hunter Lawrence has got a gigantic lead when you combine both series together. It's more going to be that battle around 20th to just get in. And a guy like Forkner, JT, he can be dangerous if he can make this happen.
Yeah, it's something we're going to have to keep an eye on is this fluid point swing back and forth. And, Hammaker's trying to climb the ranks here, but he had a tough weekend as far as that goes. He didn't gain all that many points comparatively to what we saw from him at Southwick. So that was a little bit of a setback, and time is running short for some of these guys. So we're getting down to crunch time where every single moto is going to matter quite a bit. And I cannot stress enough the difference between being within the top 30 and being within the top 20. You do not want to be going to the LCQ at each 3 of those rounds. It's not a fun place to be. I spent most of my career in that event, and it is chaos to find. So they're going to have to be looking hard at this. And on top of the normal weekend pressure, they're going to be looking at that top 20 and really fighting to get in there.
And as for these Pro Circuit guys coming back from injury, Cameron McAdoo is back to 27th now. I did talk to Nick Way, his coach. Cameron wants to race the playoffs, but he's going to have to get some nationals in because I don't think 27th will hold. He'll be out of the top 30. He doesn't come back soon. Hammaker's 34th. So they got some work to do to even get into those crazy LCQs. It's just been a rough season over there for the Kawasaki folks. Road to Recovery auction. We mentioned this earlier in the year. Brian Barnes, the longtime announcer at Washougal, has one of the greatest motocross memorabilia jersey collections you'll ever find, and he's putting it all up for auction for charity. Road to Recovery, which helps injured riders. The first half of the jersey raffle is done. The second half is going to begin here at Washougal. Go to road2recovery.com, road2recovery.com, and you'll find the link there. This is spectacular, and JT, people love this stuff.
Yeah, it's great. Many of these things you simply can't find anymore. These are, archived items from decades ago, authentic pieces that these guys actually wore on the racetrack. So it's a great thing. It's a truly great cause, and the money is going to people that actually need it. They've been injured or had some sort of mishap in the sport we all love. So hopefully everybody turns out, and you're going to get yourself a piece of history.
Definitely bid on some items there and help them out. More good news in the 450 class. Because of the playoffs, because of the money that will be on the line, riders need to get in. So we've seen the return of Kevin Moran starting at Southwick, and then Shane McElrath shows up on the stockest motorcycle I think I've ever seen race at this level. He had grips and a clutch in the bike, stock suspension, stock handlebars, stock exhaust system, and he was nearly top 10 in the first moto on that bike, JT.
Yeah, it's incredible. And if you've ever wondered the relevance of this SMX playoff series, you're seeing it play out in real time. Riders are going to the extreme to show up at these Pro Motocross Championship races because they know they want to be in that top 20 and at worst inside that top 30 for a chance at glory and money and all the things that come along with those playoff rounds. So this was probably the best example we've had of he doesn't have a ride. He didn't have necessarily a way to get there, yet he found a way and then almost put his motorcycle inside the top 10 in that first moto.
Yeah, McElrath, I'm looking here. He's 17th now in combined points, and he told me his goal was to race maybe the last 2, but the points were getting too close and he had to rush it and come back early. I think he'll have a better setup going forward, but he needs every moto he can. So he bought a bike and raced it at Millville. I thought that was really cool. And Moran's got into the points this time. He didn't do it at Southwick, so good for him. Score, I think, 7 points in the second 450 moto. So good job for Kevin. It's not quite a return for Jason Anderson because we've seen him back since Redbud, but this is much more like the Jason Anderson we're used to. That was a really strong ride for a podium, Moto 1.
Yeah, and he's just been looking for progress. He knows that his best chance for success has been in the first moto. So I think he went all out, and he had to pass all of his rivals other than the top 2, of course, Jett and Chase, to get that podium in the first moto. And I think when things went sideways in the second moto, of course he wasn't happy about it, but I think the first moto was enough. He showed himself, he showed his team what he's capable of when he gets back to full strength. I think we'll see more of that, assuming that his wrist isn't bothering him too badly going into Washougal. But what I'm really looking for is when we go to Unadilla, I think you're going to see a full strength Jason Anderson because of the 2 full weekends we will have. If he's not at full strength by Unadilla, I don't know when that will show up, maybe September in the playoffs, but you can see real progress happening in real time here.
Yeah, that's awesome because he had to ride through a couple of really good riders, Ferrandis and Plessinger, to get that third. And that's kind of the position he would normally be in if he weren't recovering. So definitely getting closer to the Anderson we expect to see. Hey, we want to send a shout out to Grant Harlan. I feel he was the most improved rider of anyone in Monster Energy Supercross this year, and he's been great in motocross. Top 10 guy again. He is 13th in the combined standings, SMX, motocross, and supercross together. 13th of any rider in the sport. This is Grant Harlan, everyone.
Yeah, and my favorite thing about this is I watch him really closely in these battles. He was moving forward this weekend, and the fitness is apparent. Late in these motos, you can't fake it. Everyone can see if you're tired because your body language changes. You can't charge. And every time I've seen Grant Harlan in these positions, he is working to pass people, move forward. There's no quit in him, and he doesn't look tired. So for me, that goes a long way for me. I really appreciate it because I know the work that's got to be put in to get into that position and to feel that way late in the motos. And so kudos to him. What a great year he's had.
So let's preview Washougal here a little bit. Chase Sexton obviously making strides, was much better at Millville than he was the previous rounds. He says Washougal is one of his favorite tracks, and Jett says Washougal is not one of his. So the Honda teammates is going to be on this weekend.
Yeah, for Sexton, he has to like the way this sets up. He left Spring Creek frustrated. I think he knows he left some on the table there. But if you're looking at the data, and I can guarantee you that the Lawrence brothers do this because they throw stats at me sometimes that I didn't know. So they're students of the sport. They understand this, and Jett will know he's never won a moto at this particular racetrack, and Sexton has been phenomenal here. So it sets up nicely. It's a great storyline. Can Jett continue the winning streak, or does Chase finally get it done? I don't have a hard opinion on it. I just want to see a battle, and I think that's exactly what we're going to get.
Yeah, and Jett said he knows how bad the roost hurts at Washougal on a 250. He said, I can't imagine what it's going to be like on a 450 if he's behind somebody. Remember, last year, Eli Tomac had a massive moto win streak going, and it ended at the hands of Chase Sexton straight up at Washougal. That's how good Sexton is on this racetrack. We're going to update the SMX points for the 450 class. Already highlighted some of the stories with Harlan and McElrath and riders like that. When you go closer to the top, it's kind of surprising. Aaron Plessinger is hovering around that podium every weekend. Maybe not the results he wants. Probably wants to get a win. But he's second in the combined standings right now. And also watch for Jett. I think Jett could get the third by the time this is over.
Yeah, he's just racking up points, and 50 points a weekend will get you pretty far up the leaderboard. So, and we don't know what's going to happen, right? If some of these other guys miss a race or two, like anything is possible. But for Jett, going into this series, he's probably like, top 10 would be nice. I missed 17 Supercross rounds, and he's got to be like, whoa, things can change really quickly here. And any sort of big lead that Chase Sexton thought he would have over Jett going into those final playoff rounds may get evaporated. It may be a very, very small lead that Chase Sexton holds over Jett when we start up in Charlotte.
Yeah, so if it were to go the way it might, let's just say Sexton wins with the most combined points, he'll start the playoffs with 25 points. Plessinger could start with second with 22, and Jett could be third with 20. That would only be a 5-point gap for Jett to overcome when the playoffs begin. So it's going to be on if it goes this direction. But wait, there's more. We're not sure exactly what this is going to look like, but we know it will sound good. A couple people have decided to put money on the line for the top placing 252 stroke in the 450 class at Washougal. I think this kind of starts with Carson Brown, who's now a Red Bull athlete and is great riding 2 strokes and 4 strokes. I know he was going to race in a 2-stroke anyway, and I don't know exactly who else is going to come out to challenge him and try to take that money, but it's something like 15 grand already on the line. And here's what's even better, JT. KTM Gas and Husqvarna have said if someone is the top place in 2-stroke on their brand, they'll give them, I think, like another 5 grand or something like that. So this is going to be a cool race within the race.
Yeah, and the sound and smell of 2-stroke will be wafting through the Washougal Mountains. I'm sure I'll be standing by there and watching, and we'll see how hometown favorite Carson Brown can do.
Yeah, shout out to Motosport, this is their home race. They're putting up money. Moto Memes, the Instagram page, and Jetson Donuts putting up the money for this 2-stroke race. Should be fun. Okay, Fowler's Facts time. We bring in our statistician, Clinton Fowler, and we know what we want to talk about. Jett versus Chase, and what a chase it was there in the first moto. So I want to know speed, all out, who was going quick, who wasn't, who turned it up. What does the data show, Clinton?
These guys are definitely head and shoulders above the rest. Jett Lawrence and Chase Sexton are definitely incredible this past weekend. 2 to 3 seconds faster in qualifying, and amazing. They set 45 of the 50 fastest laps of the entire day. So just mind-boggling how fast those guys are. But I think the real interesting thing is to see the cat and mouse game they were playing in the motos. So in the first moto, you've got Jett Lawrence goes out, sets the fastest lap time. But it's Chase Sexton who sets the fastest lap times from laps, the second fastest to the 7th fastest. And then obviously a mistake, but it looked like he had form from last year. What did you see out there, JT?
Yeah, the speed is back, and he mentioned that he was able to find that intensity that he's been looking for on the back of 2022. You know, a lot of positive signs there for Chase, and he wasn't able to finish it. He didn't eventually get the job done, but I think for him, it's a positive sign that he can get back to that place and push on the level that he felt like he could push last year. And for Jett, yeah, I mean, he's still won. I think he has to just kind of give Chase a pat on the shoulder and say, hey man, you were riding really, really well. Because yeah, they were 45 seconds ahead of third place, and they both have to respect that effort.
Okay, so Moto 2, it's like, oh, Sexton fell on the first lap of Moto 1. What if he had a start for Moto 2? Well, he got it. He was running the paddle sand tire where Jett had moved away from that. That's better for starts. Allowed him to get the whole shot, get the lead. Then a mistake. Jett gets around him. And then another mistake, and that ends. What did the data show you in Moto 2, Clinton?
Yeah, in Moto 2, this is where I think Jett made a statement. He saw what happened in the first Moto where where Chase caught him. Jett felt the pressure a little bit in that first Moto. He came back out in that second Moto and made a statement that said, hey, I'm still here. I still got the speed to win this in a very consistent way and keep my undefeated streak going. So it looked like the lap times Jett was making a statement in that second Moto.
But JT, you make this point all the time, especially when you throw Jett Lawrence in the mix. You really don't know where anyone stands because you don't know what he's actually outputting on the racetrack.
Yeah, I think we were set up nicely to really get some answers to that question in the second Moto until Chase made the first mistake and then the second mistake trying to follow Jett there. So that question will inevitably be answered. We're going to see where Jett's limit is. Chase tried to explore it a bit this weekend, probably the most he's been tested outside of Ken Roczen at High Point, and maybe the second Moto at Fox Raceway. But yeah, it's still one of those things where I certainly don't know where it is. And to be completely honest, Jett may not know. When he really has to wind this thing up, he may not know where that limit is of what that lap time can truly look like.
It could be like outer space if he ever had to turn it up to the highest possible level. He might break the gravitational pull or something like that because we haven't seen it yet. Okay, here's the real problem here. Sexton has the speed back, but Clinton, we saw something we've seen from Sexton on a lot of races where he's fast. He crashed too much.
Yeah. Mistakes, Weege. You know, in Supercross, we saw 7 rounds where he had mistakes. We've now seen 1 round here of the 4. He's made mistakes in 8 of 21 races between Supercross and Motocross this year. That's 40% of the races that he's lining up against. He's simply not going to win. He's not going to win races starting from behind or making those mistakes. So I think he's going to need to clean those up to challenge Jett.
Yeah, that's a bummer. It's probably going to affect this. That's the thing. Going into Washougal, it's a very good track for him. Not so good for Jett, but tip over could flip that. Yeah, a lot of the upcoming tracks definitely are going to be good for other riders. We've even heard the rumor that Ken Roczen might return for Unadilla. He's great at that track, as is Chase. Chase said all the remaining tracks are great for him. So there are going to be some challenges for Jett Lawrence starting at Washougal. Now, Clinton, you just came off of ACL surgery from riding your dirt bike, but you're going to come back anyway. Washougal in person. Got any predictions?
I'm looking forward to being at Washougal. Definitely a home. I only 3-hour drive to get down there. So looking forward to seeing you guys there. And I do have a prediction. I'm gonna put it out there. I think the streak ends this weekend. I think that Chase. I know I'm going out on a limb here, guys, but I think after last weekend, Chase was on it. His form was back, and I think Washougal's just a track where he's had great success. So I think this is the weekend to end it.
All right, this is gonna be awesome. If they're close, that crowd is going to be losing their minds with so much that's on the line right now. I know it's only about the title, allegedly, for Jett Lawrence, and I'm sure that is the big goal, but everybody's looking at that 0 losses in the column. It'll be fun. See you there, Clinton.
See you guys there.
We're going to wrap this show up, but also tell you how to watch us, along with James Stewart. We'll be back in the booth at Washougal. All times are Eastern, you see here. We'll have 1 o'clock qualifying coverage. That's Race Day Live, presented by motosport.com, and the motos will start at 4 o'clock. You're watching on Peacock or the SuperMotocross video pass outside of the U.S. But we'll have an encore presentation of racing on USA on Sunday at noon. That'll be a really cool way to get some new eyeballs on the sport. But it really comes down to this, JT. I think everyone's anticipating, we have a perfect season on the line and truly on the line because the challenge just might be coming now.
Yeah, I love the fact that Chase has made this more interesting than it already was. It felt like Jett may sneak away here and get this job done, but I don't know. Chase seems like he wants to upset the apple cart a little bit.
Yep. And I know the Jett Lawrence camp says it's not about the perfect season. It's just about winning the title. But there's still going to be a lot of tension if those two are wheel to wheel like they nearly were at Spring Creek. We'll be there to cover it. We're the Jasons. Thanks for watching SMX Insider. We'll see you this Saturday.